Why do we take them as our own, owning them, showing them how they belong to us, and when they reach Saudi Arabia, we abandon them and leave them to the public for anyone, any well-wisher to whom it may concern? Why? I mean, when we are exporting these girls from Uganda, you find each recruitment company is controlling them as if they are his or her own property. They don't want even to see them talk to anyone or associate to anyone. How they hide them and lock them up into their shelters when they are leaving or before leaving the country. Why do we want to lie to these migrant workers that they are our own until they land in Saudi Arabia and they find no one on their side? They begin calling everyone now. You abandon them to the public. How do they turn into a public nuisance to help out? When they were leaving, when they were leaving, you called them your own. If they were indeed your own, why are you always not on their side when they are shouting, when they call on you? Why do they eventually turn to look for someone else to assist them who is not you? Haven't we reached a time to think twice? That maybe we cannot do this work alone. We have got to regard something called a workers' administration for their welfare, for them to look into their issues, because most of the times their issues have ended up in the hands of workers. These issues have ended up in the hands of the public which does not actually concern. They don't know. The public is always caught unaware. Waking up in a day, serving a breakfast of bosi wange ayagala kunzita, bosi wange ayagala kunzita, nalabye emizimu, simanyi nakoze kina kino na kiri. Why do you take them as your own and you land them in Saudi Arabia, then they turn to be a public concern? If you choose to take them as your own, why don't you carry your cross? And if you know you cannot carry that cross, why don't you share the responsibility and you serve one master at a go? I want this question to go to the labor companies. I want this question to go to the administrators, Ministry of Gender. You are so compiled with your activities. The ministry seems to be too busy, 70% about migrant workers' issues. And yet, when you move out every day, we see you mentioning issues. Most times you are in programs of gender when you are talking. I mean, programs concerning children, women emancipation. You are in different issues that may not directly concern the real problem of migrant workers, whom you know very well that these are the people that are keeping you busy within the ministry. We have seen you. That in itself means you deliberately want to continue seeing our members, the migrant workers, suffering. You cannot come out to include them, to work with them, to give them a leadership, to recognize their leadership. That's what we mean. You may tell us, are we the ones to give you leadership? No. Recognize the leadership officially and in public. Come out and mention it. Tell it to the workers, and the workers will know where to report, where to be helped, before being misled, mishandled, and shouting to everyone in social media. That is our concern. The fellow workers who are seniors have gotten the answer to the challenges you want to solve by an application. The senior migrant workers in Saudi Arabia have gotten an answer to the challenges their fellows are facing in the houses, which you want to solve by, by you deploying your own attaches whom you don't have a budget. They have got the real solutions to their fellows. Only they want you to do for them is a recognition and a respect for their leadership in position or in place. This is what we have been calling for, unless you are just adamantly you don't want to understand. And we are calling it from both sides. Because sometimes when you ask the administrator, the workers need their special entity recognized and seen and worked with together within the whole procedures you are taking. They pretend not to understand it. You find the recruiters infringing. When the workers say, we want to represent ourselves, you find the Recruiters Association wanting now to represent the interests of workers. This must stop, and it should be guided and regulated by the administrator that you wera mukoma wano. These are concerns of workers. Let workers talk or represent themselves. For you, your role is A, B, C, D. So that we do not expose our own to the mercy of a businessman who is only aiming at how much profit he can make out of each head. I hope this message reaches the Director Labor, the PS, and all the ministers in the Ministry of Gender. We are tired of writing to you because you pretend a lot. But think about what you are doing. There cannot be a category of workers you are exporting through these licenses that you cannot trace, you cannot account for, you cannot actually always inform about your foldings or unfoldings. We have seen you several times writing or coming up to conclusions in the ministry, only copying to UERA, writing to UERA and the other association of recruiters. Now wondering, if you are only informing the recruiters, are you in a deal with these recruiters such that they should be the only ones to know? The workers shouldn't know? Are you planning to do something against these workers and the workers don't need to be put to notice? Doesn't the workers really want to know what is going on? Whether the development is on the side of recruitment, the workers must know so that they get vigilant. They get to know when they can be fully around. They get to know what to report on. They get to know where things go wrong and they report back to you as a ministry. You seemingly want to play the game, two of you, and you zero out the workers. If you are really preparing a transparent system that involves all, who reports for the workers? Are the workers informed of your developments? Or you only inform yourselves as recruiters and then the deal is done? If workers don't know how recruitment is done and what is going on, what are the new changes, what are the what, if they don't know these trends, how will they avoid being trafficked or manipulated within the very systems you are setting? Shame on you. If you think you are director labor or whatever, you write letters, you have instructions from the ministry, whom we know it is our mother administrator, and you only always inform, write and copy to these recruiters, forgetting the workers who will be in position to inform the workers what their position is or the new developments, such that they avoid being landing or being victims or learning traps of the same. Mukirowoozeko. If you are not compromised into this, then you better do better and think about it. You are actually exposing your interests. You are exposing that interest you have in the business. The more you continue zeroing a third arm. And I wonder how even ILO picks interest to give you training over what? ILO must look at the interest of workers, the liberties for the workers, which is its first line interest. Yes, by guiding the recruiters, guiding the ministry to do whatever they do. But that it will not come to effect if the workers themselves remain subjects. We cannot be zeroed out of your discussions. And then the next day you say you are planning for us. How can we serve food which you have prepared behind closed doors? I mean, you find ILO calls a meeting and locks up Ministry of Gender and recruiters, forgetting the workers. Shame on you, the country director for ILO and others. We shall be direct to you. Because that in itself, you are also selling your own interests, not the workers' interests. Bring in the workers as an ILO director, ask, where are the workers, the so-called Ugandan migrant workers, whom we want to bring up to policy or see that the policy helps them? Are they present at the time you are discussing issues concerning or pertaining them? These are the issues we are asking. If IOM is to regard that as well, I want this message to reach the chief. Do you really always look for the workers' representatives to be around in your discussions with the ministries and these recruiters, whom you fund to actually lie about how they care about us? And that money doesn't have any impact. It doesn't have any impact on us. It is just being wasted. I want this message to reach you. You are discriminating us, and yet your programs want to purport saying fighting discrimination. Which kind of inclusion that does not include the people you are talking about? Where are the workers' representatives in the programs you are making? From the Ministry of Gender or from the company that recruits? Who is there to speak for these workers? Because we all know workers can be ignorant, and they need to be someone to be there with someone always to guide them. Who are these representatives? We need to know them. And where is their administration for them to have order? If we are all up to migration governance, you want to regulate only recruiters and you forget the workers? Where are the workers' regulations? If they are not subjects, if you are not taking us as minors, as it was during slavery, why are we not having a say as workers? I want this message to reach you all, the stakeholders. If you are to ask in Uganda today, who is responsible and in charge, or the leader appointed, or whatever, selected by the workers themselves, who is responsible for these Ugandan migrant workers who always complain and you always discharge through your systems, your exploitative systems? If you are not exporting subjects, if you are not exporting matchboxes, who are their leaders? Forget our civil society, because for us we are volunteering to express this, to explain, to tell you where you are going wrong. We are not their leaders. Don't hear me say, you say I am their leader. I am not, because I was never assigned or appointed or even elected to be their leader. So we are asking, who is representing these workers in Uganda, these Ugandan migrant workers in the Ministry of Labor, where they cook food to export them and exploit them in Saudi Arabia? If you are really minding about a tripartite structure or tripartitism, who? Are there any leaders from the migrant workers fraternity? Whatever IOM or ILO or Ministry of Gender, whatever, or BTU, whatever you call, and these leaders are there to listen in and really adhere or take in your opinions. Or you have decided to go to in bed and then you zero on how you should export your beans, your green peppers to Saudi Arabia. Then the next day you tell us how business is good, you are exporting well, everything is okay. And whichever reports that come back, you keep neglecting them, saying that is drama. Are we slaves? Because it is slaves who never had leadership. It is slaves who were never given a point to speak. It is slaves. Are Ugandan migrant workers you are exporting to Saudi Arabia slaves that do not deserve to have a representation in whichever thing you do? The people in these big offices, the UN officials, you have learned this. You are the ones writing these documents. Why don't you walk your talk in the documents? Can't you ask the government of Uganda to show you this? When you talk of our welfare, nobody is concerned. You want to figure it and hide it into the perpetrators of our suffering. We cannot accept, we cannot afford to continue exposing our rights, our life, or our whatever to the mercy of these recruiters, because they cannot protect their interests. Even the government, We don't trust now, since it also exploits us. Are you people in IOM, ILO? Don't you know? Don't you know that Ugandan government exploits money from each Ugandan head and from the embassy in Saudi Arabia? Whichever they export, how do they account to that? We cannot afford to continue being exploited. Don't you know that the Saudis or these sponsors pay money to the Ugandan recruiters, and the Ugandan recruiters are running limited company, limited by share companies where they have to earn a profit? How will they protect their profits and the workers' rights, whom you are burdening them to always pretend to say they are the ones responsible for seeing that these girls are safe? They cannot see us safe. Hello, spare us. They cannot, because they are not fit. They cannot protect their profits, their interests. And then at the same time, you expect them to protect a girl in Saudi Arabia who is suffering. Protect a right of a girl that is in Saudi Arabia. That's where we go wrong. Once you entrust a fox to be in charge of a meat store, then you have a problem yourself. I want to seal my case. Think about it. The Ugandan migrant workers and even others from other African countries that are suffering because of this greediness perpetrated by the very administrators and the very people in it from ILO, IOM, and other parties. This time we are not excluding you. We are going to shout to you. We shall even read your names until the international community comes out to realize what you are doing here. If you are not compromised,